Grab your cup. It's time for Coffee with Kristin and Tina. Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Kristin and Tina. We're your hosts. This is Kristin Odell of KLO LLC and I'm Tina Prigge. Good morning, Kristin. So happy to see you.
It's good to see you. I grabbed my cup. I grabbed my K-cup.
Perfect.
Hey, listen.
Did you fill it with a K-cup? Did you use a K-cup to fill the K-cup?
No. Not a K-cup fan. Have we ever talked about this on the show before?
I don't know. Tell me. Talk about it right now.
My mental preference, I don't like the waste of K-cups. Like, I don't know. I don't like that. And I do just feel like the old-fashioned coffee pots still brew a better cup of coffee than the K-cup also.
Yeah,
so
fair enough. The only thing I like about it, and I agree with you on all those other points, but is the convenience, right? That you don't have to brew like a whole Mr. Coffee pot just to have a cup of coffee.
Right.
And it's fresh on demand. So yeah, really struggling with those two different points of view.
I get it. Like if I have time and we have nothing else going on, I love French pressing coffee because it's so delicious and amazing, but it is a little bit time consuming. It's more of a process. But we set up the coffee pot at night. So really all I have to do is hit a button and usually within a couple of minutes it's ready. And that's probably pretty similar to a K-cup.
Yeah, there you go. Well, hey, Kristin, this is an exciting show because we've got a special guest this morning. Do you know what a midwife is?
I don't have the technical definition of midwife.
But you have an idea, right? I think I had an idea too, but then I heard about a doula and in my mind, I thought it was the same thing. And guess what? It's not the same thing at all. And did you know that here on the coolest coast, there is a working doula? And so she's going to join us on the show and tell us more about it because I think what a valuable benefit to new moms this is. So let's welcome to the show this morning. This is Susie Koeberl, a coolest coast doula, the Lakeshore doula. Hello, Susan.
Hello.
How's
Susan,
it going?
Can you say that you're the only doula on the coolest coast?
I can. I am the only certified postpartum doula in Manitowoc County.
Go, Susan.
So, yes.
Susan.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. So let's tell listeners, let's tell moms especially, what does a doula do? When you say postpartum, so the baby is already born, you've got this newborn, doula steps in and go.
Yes. So a postpartum doula supports mom and baby and the entire family as they transition to adding a baby to the family. So not necessarily just the first baby, but second, third, fourth, however many there are. Everyone is a unique transition. So it's providing emotional support to the family. Our first priority is the mom. So making sure that mom's physical recovery is going well, emotional recovery, that she's getting rest as she needs it. Feeding support is huge. But probably a misconception with feeding support is that we have training in all types of feeding. So we are non-judgmental, unbiased support. So however mom chooses to feed her baby, we support. Misconception might be that we're coming like, we want you to nurse. You have to nurse. That's what's best for baby. But that's not what we do. We support what mom wants to do. And then helping the whole family adjust. So siblings, that's huge. And then the husband, wife, making sure, and partners, and making sure that they are communicating and everyone's feeling seen and heard.
And so when you say come in, so they don't have to come and see you in an office. You're actually coming to the home for these services.
Yeah, this is my sort of office. Really, it's my husband's office because, my work is out. So I meet with families when they interview me and they want to meet with me, typically in their homes. That way we can both make sure that we're comfortable in the environment. And I come right into your home. So however often you need it, for however long you need it, I come in and support you. As soon as you hire me, I start that support right away through call, text. So the earliest I've had people interview me before they even have gotten pregnant. Just so that they know what resources are available. But then I kind of become a part of their village right away. So If they have questions about, well, I had this appointment and I have this question now, can you help me? Things like that. But I come into the home usually the day after they get home from the hospital is the most common. I think every new mom can remember the first night home and being like, everyone is gone, all the doctors, all the nurses. And that's the time where the panic can set in a little bit. So,
and when you're the most tired and out of sorts too, right?
Yeah.
Like you're completely out of your depth. You have this fragile, precious little newborn thing, right? I can completely see where your services would be so beneficial, Susan.
Yes.
I also feel like the baby wakes up then. Like that's when the baby's finally like awake and ready to eat. And you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do with you?
And you don't have that, the nurses are so great helping to support you while you're in the hospital. If you're choosing to breastfeed, helping you to support that. And then all of a sudden you get home and you're doing it on your own and it's a totally different ballgame. So, and that's kind of what I do. That's what I often say is it's taking that nursing care at the hospital and looping it home. So you continue to get that support for as long as you need.
And it's interesting how you talked about too, the sibling integration. I like that because it's not just the mom and the newborn, those other little kids need some sort of understanding and interaction as well. So, wow.
Yeah. It's helping those siblings obviously transition to having a new baby in the house. Mom trying to figure out how to balance her hands, her love, all of those things. I know for me personally, my hardest transition was going from 1 to 2. And so I had a 2-year-old and a newborn and figuring out that balance. And so sometimes I come in and take all the kids and we go into another room and mom just has some quiet time. Sometimes it's me just developing a relationship with the siblings so they get some one-on-one time. And sometimes it's helping just to foster that relationship between the sibling and the new baby so they feel more comfortable and that they can help and things like that.
Do the new moms typically have a lot of questions that they ask you?
Yeah. And I think that's something I think with my services that are unique too is that when you sign a contract with me, I am like your doula for life. So you pay for only the periods of time that I come into your home, but along with that comes unlimited texting and calling forever. Those doula families are a part of they honestly become an extension of our family. And so there's a lot of other transitions that happen well beyond me being in the home. So when you introduce first foods and when they go through sleep regressions and leaps and things like that, and moms have questions, they are always welcome to reach out to me and ask those questions.
So Susan, for people that aren't familiar, can you just describe a little bit the difference between like what a midwife might do? Because like people are typically pretty familiar with what a midwife is and how what your services you provide are different as a doula.
Yeah, so a midwife is medically trained. It's a much longer training process, and they actually deliver babies. So that can be in a hospital setting, that could be in a birth center, that could be in your home. So they are essentially very similar to your typical OB-GYN. They just don't do surgery. Then another birth doula, something that sometimes people get confused with midwife and birth doula. A birth doula supports mom and the partner during labor. So that's another option for service for new moms is to get that support. And they are specifically trained to do emotional and physical support during the labor process while you're in the hospital. And then I take over once you get home.
Is there a question that you find that moms or families ask you the most?
Oh gosh. I think just so many questions. No. I think just it's really about building mom's confidence that they are doing things the best way they know how for their baby. And I think, a lot of times people will say, and Kristin and I, we were just talking about this before the show about if you have a really wonderful supportive family around you, sometimes people will think, well, I don't really think I need a doula because my mom's here or my sister had babies and things like that. But it is a different type of support because it is unbiased, non-judgmental. And so sometimes you get all this advice coming in from different directions, and that can be a little bit overwhelming. And so just helping moms weed through and trust their voice and trust their process as a mom. And so a lot of the questions I get, lots of them are about feeding. Are they getting enough? Things like that. Sleeping is huge. Sleeping is questions I get well beyond my time physically in the home, because we all know we go through lots of sleep transitions as babies and toddlers, and moms are tired.
So are you in their lives long enough that the children remember you, or are your services done before they're really cognizant of the things that you're doing?
So this is probably honestly one of my favorite parts that I've noticed now that, so I was certified in December of 2019, and I launched 3 days before the pandemic. Yeah, great. But my oldest babies now are almost 2.5. And there's something about that immediate connection that you're there physically right from birth. And I keep in touch with all of my families. And those babies and those toddlers absolutely recognize me. And that's probably one of my, honestly, my favorite parts. Makes me a little teary. But those toddlers recognizing me, even if they haven't seen me in months, I absolutely love that. And so just extending our village, our family, it's cool to see, definitely.
What do you have them call you? Do they call you?
Oh gosh, they have,
or
yeah. Lots of them call me doula. And they'll say, do you want to go see your doula? So that's probably the most common names. Some of them, Auntie Susan, things like that. But I just love it. One of my very first client, his journey was just super cool. A big journey to come to life. And his mom took a picture at his first birthday party, and I was sitting next to him in his high chair, and he was just looking up at me, and it's like my favorite picture ever. Because it's just so cool how they recognize you because you've been there for so long.
So I predict then, once these children graduate from high school, you'll probably be at their graduation parties.
I know. I say one of them lives only probably about a mile down the road. Actually, 2 of them do. And I'm like, I can't wait for the day they can ride their bikes to Doula's house. That'll be so fun. But I've also said too that when this first group graduates high school, I want to get all the Lakeshore Doula babies together, take a big Lakeshore Doula picture.
That's cool.
We'll get the Priggies to do that for us. We'll get the drone in there.
Susan, have any of your families had another baby now? Have you done it long enough that they're having siblings?
Yes. So my second client that I ever had is due in a week and a half. And so they pretty much found out they were pregnant, and they were like, bring over that contract. They were ready for round 2. And that's what I love too, is that they saw the value in that the first time, but then they also see the value in that the second time. And that's really huge for me, because then I know that they just valued the service that they got from a postpartum doula, and they want to do it again, and they want to make that investment again. So that's, and I have others that are on their way. So they're like, I'm telling you, as soon as it happens, that contract's coming over.
And I don't know how to describe it, Susan, but there's just something about your personality, something about the energy where it just feels comforting. It feels like, I feel like I would hand over my newborn child and feel completely comfortable,
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I think that's really important part of the interview process too, is someone can look on my Facebook page and be like, I don't know if I need a doula or whatever. But if they interview me, it's really making sure that the two of us feel comfortable. That's obviously a super vulnerable time. There's a lot of like physical and emotional things going on, obviously during that time. And part of our training too is learning how to be that emotional support and learning how to pick up on postpartum mood disorders. So that's kind of really where my passion for postpartum doula support comes from, is that there really is truly a lack of support for women afterwards. Postpartum depression and anxiety goes undiagnosed far more than it should. And with our medical technology we have these days, because as women, we don't talk about those feelings and the shame. Like we feel like we've been given this gift and we should just be happy for it. And everything should be wonderful and come naturally. And the fact of the matter is it doesn't for a lot of people. And having those hard conversations and being with someone that you feel comfortable with is huge, so that you can be vulnerable. And if something isn't going right, it can get better.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a great point. Everybody thinks like having a baby is supposed to be magical. And it is magical, but it's not always like, it's not pretty. It's typically very hard. You talked about the decision-making aspect of it. And yeah, there's a lot of aspects of it that we don't talk about. We don't give permission people to talk about because we think everything has to be perfect. And then you set this like unreasonable standard. And the minute you slip from that, it's like, it's heartbreaking, right?
Right. So, yeah. And I've had to be there, like, sat with clients while they've called their OB-GYN, and just said like, I need to come back in. And, and I think my own personal experience, Tina talked about the personality I have. Like, I always say that I've been a doula my whole life. Anyone that knew me or knows my daughter right now, she's like a mini version of me. And just that really like nurturing personality, loves babies, things like that. So I've done that forever. And so people would always say like, oh, Susan, like, you're going to be such an amazing mom, the best mom ever. You're going to have a dozen kids. And particularly when I had baby number 2, I was previously a teacher. I stayed home when he was born. So that was there was a lot of transition happening. I'm a social person. I went from working to staying home with a 2-year-old and a newborn. And that was really, really hard. And the hardest part for me was admitting that I had postpartum depression, but Susan's supposed to be able to do this so seamlessly.
Yeah.
So I waited 5 months before I actually made the phone call, and it was the hardest, worst phone call I've ever made in my life. But then when I had baby number 3, I was much more proactive. I was like, I want to enjoy this. I understand. And I was proactive that time rather than waiting. But yeah, like, I think everyone thinks I had this healthy baby, I should be so happy. And when it's overwhelming and when it doesn't feel good, or when you have some birth trauma, or things like that, having those hard conversations and being around someone that you're comfortable with is huge.
And, not to mention the fact that as a mom, you spend 9 months totally bonded with this little baby that's like nurturing and growing and stuff inside of you, right? Like, that bond is real. And then at this happiest moment when the birth happens, that bond is like completely severed. I feel like psychologically there's something to kind of losing that little connection, right?
Right. Yes. And then, you're adding in, all these other factors of the outside world. Everyone wants to visit the baby and see the baby, and then your husband. And that's something that we forget about too, the husbands and the partners. They're going through a transition too. And so oftentimes, like, they've had the experience of, you've gotten to bond with the baby for 9 months. Now the baby's here. And where do I fit in? Particularly if mom is successful nursing, where do I fit in? And so sometimes it's conversations, making sure that dad feels like he's a part of it, and making sure dad's okay too, because postpartum depression in men is also real.
Interesting.
And even more undiagnosed than women.
Right.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the most important takeaways from this conversation, right, is that it's important to talk. It is important to like express how you're feeling, to connect with the other women around you, right? That's what I'm hearing is if only we could talk and share a little bit more about these concerns, we could be there to support one another in a better way.
Absolutely. You don't have to have me come in and tell me everything was sunshine and rainbows last night, because it wasn't. That's all right. And I just told someone that interviewed me the other day, like, I don't do this because I did it perfectly and I'm going to show you how to do it perfectly.
Right.
Because that's not the case. None of us do. And the sooner that we all come to terms with that, the better off we'll be. Yes.
You gotta
So
give
let's talk about
permission to be messy.
Yeah.
Don't be the girl that says, all right, tell me the real story. Tell me what's really going on.
Right.
Susan, what is your service area? Where, like, you're located in Manitowoc. How far out do you expand?
So I will travel Green Bay, Appleton, Sheboygan area. I'd say about 95% of my clients are in Manitowoc County. But I have had a couple of clients in Green Bay and Appleton. So I will travel for that. But my focus is really on Manitowoc County and bringing this service to the families of Manitowoc.
I just feel like you really help make this the coolest coast, right? Like knowing that your services are here for moms just warms my heart. How can somebody who is a new mom or is preparing to be a mom or knows somebody who's going to soon be a mom, how do they get a hold of you? How do they find you?
So I am on Facebook and Instagram, the Lakeshore Doula. I have a website, thelakeshoredoula.com. And so there's a form on the website you can fill out. You can message me on Facebook. You can call, text. And then I just set up a free meet and greet if you're interested in just learning more about postpartum doula services. So if you are planning on starting your family, if you are expecting, that's a good time just to kind of learn about postpartum doula services so you know if it's something that will be a good fit for you. And I also teach newborn care classes, so that's on the Facebook page as well.
That's funny. I can remember being in the hospital with my newborn son, and it was like, okay, time to put a diaper on him. And I was like, what? Like I had no idea. And thankfully my parents were there and they're like, oh, we'll do it. And my dad and my mom, they like, futzed around. They lifted him up. It was on backwards. I'm like, okay, guys, I got this.
Yeah.
Like nobody's perfect, right?
Nope. Definitely not. Definitely not.
So Susan, I think I've seen this before, and I just want to mention, if you are giving a gift at a baby shower or when the baby is born, you can also get gift cards from Susan, correct?
Yes. So I've had family members purchase gift cards to put towards their doula services. I've even had people do games at the baby shower that, like pay to guess, the baby's birth date or weight or things like that. And then they take that money and purchase a gift card. So the gift cards can be purchased right on my website or just through me. You contact me. But a lot of my clients, honestly, their families really support the postpartum doula services, and the grandmas and the grandpas and the aunts and the uncles really help to contribute to that. And I'll also say that this is not an upper class service by any means. The majority of my clients live paycheck to paycheck or close to. It's not an expensive service. It's just a really important service.
I'm so glad to know it exists. What a great start in life for mom, baby, the whole family. I love the fact that your scope also includes dad or partner, to make sure that it's a good experience. Wow.
Yep. And I also recently, this is probably less common, but I was contacted by someone who was placing baby for adoption and wanted to know how postpartum doula services could support her. And that was definitely has been the most transformational experience I've ever had as a doula. And so it's really expanded my just wanting to help adoptive families too. And now I'm working with a family that is adopting. So both ends of it, one that placed, one that is adopting, different families. But something that when I started doing this, it never even crossed my mind. But like obviously they're going through a massive transition, and being a part of that placing was just an absolutely beautiful experience. So doing more of that as well, just supporting women as they go through those transitions too.
Yeah, excellent. So in an adoptive case, it's not that it's postpartum, but it is just so important to have that sort of training and support as you introduce this newborn into your life. Or not even necessarily newborn, like, but baby.
Yeah, and oftentimes parents that are adopting, their postpartum experience is much different, but still very much there because they've gone from like one day not having a baby to getting a phone call that they have a baby, like just the flip of a switch, and all of a sudden you're parents. Some experiences you have some months to prepare, but some not, and so being able to support them, they have the same emotions. They might not have the physical recovery, but everything else is the same.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Susan, I'm so glad that you joined us on the show this morning to tell us all about your services as the Lakeshore Doula. I'm just so delighted to know that you exist and that what you're doing is available to moms here on the Lakeshore. It's fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Susan, when we get off the show today, you've got to go out there in the comments and tag your Facebook page and your website. So if somebody watches the show and they're looking for an easy link, that way they know they can find you right away.
Definitely. Will do.
All right. Thanks so much, Susan.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Wow, Kristin, that was so fantastic.
That was really good. Susan's just like an awesome personality anyway. And I love that her services are available here, and what a cool way to kind of highlight that. So,
and yeah, she'd mentioned, not everything is sunshine and rainbows, but I feel like with her energy and her personality, it brings the sunshine and rainbows that might be missing. That's perfect for that, new mom experience.
Yeah, even if it's just a nap, sometimes that makes all the difference, right?
Exactly. And even just to know that it's okay to take that nap, right? Like, because you start to second guess everything, like, and then you get kind of strung out. And
and like, I being the achiever I am, I can remember being like, I should be doing the dishwasher, or I should be switching laundry around when the girls would finally sleep, and then fighting that urge to be like, oh, should I lay down, versus like trying to get stuff done at home. And it's just all a lot to think about and a lot to deal, especially when your hormones and everything about your body are crazy. So very, very good. I love that.
Hey, before we wrap up, you shared this picture of Wilfort's corn. Let's tell people about it, because if it's in season right now, it's probably a limited time offer to be able to get it and enjoy it.
Yeah. So this was we went to the farmer's market last weekend on Saturday and picked up a paper bag of corn. I think it's a dozen. It costs $7, which I know some people are like, really, corn, $7? Yeah, it's worth it. Just trust me. It's fine. They're a local farm. They do amazing raise amazing things in our community, but we went out, and so this is just, I boiled it for like 3 minutes, and look at nice big old slab of butter and that salt shaker. Like, come on, that is summer.
And it just looks so tender, right? Like, I noticed that the farm grown things that come right to our table seem to be, I don't know, more tender, maybe smaller, right? Like, these don't look as big as the ones you might buy in the store, but I almost think it's better, right? Like, I bought some raspberries at a grocery store the other day, and I said to Jason, look at these. They're big and they're red, but he looked at me and he said, but they're tasteless. There was like zero flavor. And I felt like I just wasted money buying these things, right? Whereas if you get them, maybe they're a little misshapen, maybe they're small, but the flavor and the tenderness.
I agree with you completely. I would say the cobs from Wilfort's were pretty good size, but it was very tender and so sweet. Like, it was so good. And here's the other fun thing. So we bought a dozen. We did not eat a dozen. I cut it off and I store it in Ziploc bags with like 2-cup servings in it. And then either we reheat them for dinner, or I throw it in a casserole, or one of our favorites is to make corn casserole, which has like cream cheese and Jiffy mix and stuff. And it's more like, think corn pudding. I know that sounds really disgusting, but I promise you it's very good. So we have 3 Ziploc bags of corn now in the freezer. And like, you pull that out in January and you feel super sneaky, like, oh yeah, I'm eating Wilfort's corn in January.
And then you can just taste the summer, can't you?
Yes. So, and the farmer's market has been just so full of produce now. I mean, everything is ready at this time of the year. So I just want to say that out loud because we bought a lot of things and it was all delicious.
That's awesome. Speaking of delicious, one last thing. Jason and I were on a shoot, and it was in Fond du Lac. And so we stopped at this restaurant for lunch. It was called the Cellar District. It was a converted church into this cool, like, bar and restaurant. It was delicious. It was billed as like Mediterranean style, and I just wanted to make people aware of it because I hadn't heard of it. We just stumbled on it, and it was completely lovely.
That is a stunning, I mean, I know it's a church, but it's like, that's a stunning space.
Yeah, and it was so well reappointed, the way they wrapped the bar around some of the pillars and where they put the bathrooms and stuff. It was very cool. I wonder if our friend Steven in Fond du Lac is aware of this place.
Oh, if he's eaten there. Good. Hey,
Well,
so
Kristin,
guys,
yeah.
as we wrap up today, I just want to mention we have a special guest next week as well.
Yes.
Chrisma Rush is going to be on. There is a huge recovery awareness event coming up in Manitowoc. I'm going to look at the dates because I don't want to say it wrong. We've joked and laughed about we've gotten this date wrong so many times. So on Sunday, September 11th, there's a movie screening in town. It's a national movie screening that's getting showed here in the Capitol. We're going to talk about that. And then on Monday, there's this huge recovery event. So Christmas going to be on next week to talk about it. I'm so excited.
Super cool. Looking forward to it, and was so glad to have a conversation with our guest today, Susan Koeberl, the Lakeshore doula. As always, Kristin, so wonderful talking with you. And
hey, check out Susan's. I'm not doing a good job of this. Here we go. I see it here. Check out Susan's links.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it's going to appear on your user interface, but definitely check out the links. And we will see you next time on Coffee with Kristin and Tina. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.